people, welcome back. Streebo here with your Man on the Street exclusives. We just got to check out a screening of Saw 4 today, so I've come to give you my thoughts on it. It's a little hard to discuss these films without getting into spoiler specifics and whatnot, so I'm going to do my best not to give you any spoilers. The Saw series, just like the ones before it, pick up right where the last one left off. Jigsaw is dead, but of course the games continue. Keeping this non-spoiler wise, what can I say? If you dig the Saw series, you're probably going to dig this one. It's kind of more of the same. Lots of torture set pieces with this elaborate mechanical devices set up for these people to free themselves or test themselves or whatever it is that Jigsaw's plan is. One thing about this film that I think corrected some of the errors of the last few is that in the previous two sequels, all the characters are pretty despicable. You can't really root for any of them. I mean, you kind of feel in those films you just don't really care if anybody lives or dies. And in this one they did kind of correct that, because you have this Officer Rigg that is the leader of the SWAT team, and then you also have some other police, of course, that are all looking for Jigsaw. And the Rigg is the one that they kind of humanized a bit more and made him a little bit identifiable and made you want to kind of root for him. Like the other Saw films, I gotta say, it has a bit of a problem with kind of a narrative clarity. You tend to get a little bit lost because they bounce around, so you're not, as soon as you start to kind of follow one character, like Officer Rigg, for example, the movie will jump over and join up another set of characters. There's new characters basically introduced almost 40 minutes into the film, which is a little bit difficult for people to kind of follow, especially if you're trying to figure out how all these traps link together and who is helping Jigsaw this time and who's behind this and who's behind that. In thinking about it, the Saw series makes sense to me for today's day and age, because it seems like the perfect allegory for these traps. Very much is like an allegory for our society, and that we're all trapped in what we do. We're trapped by our jobs, we're trapped by our upbringing, we're trapped by our preconceived notions, we're trapped by our religious beliefs, and we basically all tear each other apart just to try to save ourselves. And for me, that's how I interpret the Saw series. I think I'm giving the filmmakers a little bit more credit than they deserve by applying that, because they don't really play the subtext in that manner at all. Ultimately, these kind of films are kind of they're just not really my bag. The first Saw I thought was an absolute instant classic. I mean, but it's kind of hard to follow up on once you have those kind of twists and of the torture and all that. I mean, it can only go more and more and more. Now, the one thing you have to give the Saw series credit for is they do follow the old adage that if you're going to make a sequel, you remake the first movie, and they've done it again and again and again. From Streebo to you, I have to say, if you like the Saw series, you'll probably like Saw 4. If they're not your bag, you definitely won't like it. I say check it out, give it a chance, but it's not quite my thing. They're a little bit too dark for me, a little bit too bleak. There's nobody to really care about. There's no real philosophical content. I'm not sure where the Saw series can go from here, but I'm sure they can keep cranking them out. Kudos to them for keeping it going. I mean, the main killer is dead, but they keep pumping the films out. So, big ups to them for that. I'm ready for them to go ahead and take a Jason Lives Friday the 13th Part 6 turn and have somebody, the next cop, run up and stab a iron gate post into Jigsaw's body, and then let lightning bolt bring him back to life, and he'll officially be the Jigsaw zombie. Okay, I decided to give you some final thoughts on Saw 4, because I felt like I missed some things when I was talking about it at the theater. So let's see, my final analysis, the pro side, okay, on the pros. The performances are good from all of the characters. This has always been a strong suit with the entire Saw series. The actors are always strong, and they always give very believable performances. Now, whether or not the characters are likable and sympathetic, or their situations are relatable, that's an entirely different story. Okay. Another pro, the traps are, as always, are very inventive, very interesting. There are several new ones in this, and they were pretty cool, and you'd go, boy, I'd hate to be stuck in that. And but there are also a couple that were kind of like, huh, what the heck is happening here? But This is pro side still. And I guess the last major pro is for the gore hounds. There's a lot of gore in this movie. It's hard to say if there's more or less than some of the previous installments because it's a little different. That one scene in Saw 3 with the pig milkshake where the pigs were the carcasses were getting shredded. I mean, that was pretty disgusting. There's nothing quite that goopy and gory. However, there is pretty much a complete autopsy with chest cut open and brains pulled out and skin pulled back, and that's pretty nasty. And it's right in the opening of the movie. So there's a lot of gore. This movie definitely delivers on the gore. On the con side, the narrative is very confusing. Okay, this is just the thing with the Saw series. When it first came out, it was really neat the way everything kind of linked. It was not a typical slasher kind of film. You don't just have this bad guy running around trying to hack people to pieces. You know, he basically, Jigsaw sets people up to basically kill themselves. You know, and he has these moral reasons behind it all. You know, the series felt a little long in the tooth for me by this point. I think they've kind of progressively gone downhill. I don't know. Saw 4 might actually be better than Saw 3, but it's still kind of confusing. It seems easy enough to follow, but they have these FBI agents whose only real purpose in the film just seems to be to kind of explain to the audience what is happening all along. And by the time you get to the end of it and you see the big major reveal, and I was just kind of left scratching my head like, well, why? Why did this character do that? And why would they team up with Jigsaw and do these things for Jigsaw posthumously? And I don't have the answer for that. Another con is cinematography is pretty murky. There were a couple scenes that were just really dark. I mean, there's really no excuse for that. Of course, the Saw films have always had kind of a desaturated look. All the colors always been drained out of them, you know, to make it kind of bleak and hopeless feeling. And with the first Saw, that seemed really new and original at the time, 2004. You know, it had that kind of that green tint to the whole thing, and it made it just seem just really hopeless and just foreboding. And it really worked. But, you know, when you get 3 movies later, things, you know, it doesn't seem as much of a novel concept as it once did. I'm not going to wuss out. I'm going to go ahead and commit to a rating on the Streebo Screamometer. And on the Streebo Screamometer, I'm going to have to give Saw 4 a 6 out of 10. I give it a 6 being that's a positive rating. I mean, 5 being a neutral rating, okay? 6 is a positive rating. I give it a positive because it delivers on the gore, it delivers on the traps. And I guess for anyone that feels drawn to rewatch these films, you know, maybe the intricacies of the plot will be rewarding upon subsequent viewings. But the first time through, it was very confusing, and because of that, it loses some points. But I did also give it a point just for keeping the series going. When your main bad guy is dead and you can keep the series going, I got to give you props for that. See, in case you didn't know, that was the one reason I was holding out hope for Saw 4 was because the 2 writers that wrote Feast, Marcus Dunstan and the other guy's name, the quiet guy, they were hired to write Saw 4, and they did, and it works as part of the Saw franchise. And if you're like me and you think the novelty's worn a little bit thin, then don't rush to see it. Go see 30 Days of Night instead, or even Rob Zombie's Halloween, which is much more effective as a slasher film. So there you have it. Have a great Halloween, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. We've been having a blast. It's not quite over yet, but I don't think we have any more real big events planned unless somehow one of us manages to go to the Halloween 4 and 5 marathon. But as it is, I don't know. I think we're just going to trick or treat, hand out candy and all that good stuff.